Hello and welcome everybody to the next installment of the AV Exchange presented by Starin. I am your host, Joe Dunbar. I'm always excited for the episodes. You know that, so I'm going to spare you that. It's Halloween. We have been talking about it coming up. I'm not wearing a costume only because you've got just a tiny little snippet of me, and so I don't want to. The costumes I have were all kind of like clothing and things like that, so it didn't really shape out, but hopefully everybody's in the spirit. I definitely am munching on some candy here and handing it out pretty freely to folks in the neighborhood, so hopefully you're all doing that as well. Appreciate everybody taking the time to join us. As always, it looks like we've got people piling up in the lobby. If you've been with us before, you kind of know the deal, but we run through it a little bit. I'm going to give you a quick peek at the agenda, which is we've got Telestream in the house tonight. We have been expanding our media and entertainment and broadcasting lines and relationships, so I'm really excited to be able to chat with these guys. A couple folks from the team, Fred and Enrique, who we'll bring in a minute. We're going to talk about cloud solutions, hybrid solutions, on-prem solutions. They've got a bunch of solutions, VidChecker, Diva. I know we're going to talk about a bunch of those, so make sure to stick around. Before we do that, you guys, most of you know the deal because you've been around here before, but if you don't, the basic housekeeping stuff, please use the Q&A for questions. It helps us keep everything in line and keep track of stuff to make sure that we get your questions answered. I'm all about the chat for comments. I love people to tell us where they're from because it's super interesting for me to just see where everybody's, checking in from. I'm currently in Minnesota. I've been threatening to leave here before the winter comes, and I promise I'm going to do that. The next episode, I will be somewhere else, but let us know where you are. We got a couple folks from all over the world. I know Enrique and Fred are in a few different places. I will launch a poll momentarily, and in the poll, really all we want to know is how familiar are you with Telestream, and what your kind of position is in the market, if you're an integrator or what else it may be. And then stick away. Oh, we didn't update that. Shame on me. We are doing a giveaway. It is a $100 Amazon gift card brought in by our friends from Telestream. So shout out to them for that. Thank you so much, you guys, for bringing it to us. And I'm just gonna, with no further ado, I want to bring in the team. We've got Fred and Enrique from Telestream. You guys, thanks so much for joining us. And let's, if we could get introductions from people and kind of what you do, and we can jump into it.
Absolutely. Thanks, Joe. So my name is Enrique Rivera. Pretty new to Telestream, actually. I'm about 6 weeks deep, based in Northern California, San Francisco Bay Area. Recently came over from technology partner Avid, and been working with Fred and the team, and excited to be here.
That's a great segue. I just want to shout out Avid. I'm trying not to make this stupid joke. I'm an Avid user and a partner of ours as well. So if you need hookup on Avid licenses and stuff, you can definitely call your rep at Starin. So that's a fun transition for you. Welcome. And Fred, if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself.
Sure. Fred Vint, Director of Channel Sales. I've been in this particular role since July, have been with Telestream since 2022. Like Enrique, I'm an Avid alum, but I did my stint over a decade ago, and have been in the industry with some other companies you've heard of, Chiron, Broadstream, and a few other sports and media and entertainment companies along the way. So really like what we're doing at Telestream. We've gone through a lot of changes recently, and one of them, of course, is bringing Starin on board as one of our premier distribution partners. So we're really thrilled about that, and looking forward to showing what we have, as well as hopefully meeting some of your folks, and looking forward to chatting and building some business together. Absolutely.
I appreciate you guys both. Some quick intros. I know we're going to get a little highlight overview of that as well. I'll just remind you guys, I'm going to be jumping in with questions as they come in, so I'll let you guys take it away and we can jump into some of the content. And for the folks out there, please drop your questions in, and we'll get them into the discussion.
All right, just a little bit of an agenda, right? We're going to do a little introduction of ourselves, which we just did, but we've got a little secret surprise for you coming up for the holiday atmosphere here. I'm going to be talking a little bit about Telestream as a company, a little bit of stroll down memory lane, and Fred is actually going to be going into some of the product and in package format that we've kind of got on the Starin website for kind of easy consumption. But we'll be getting into some of the nuts and bolts of the different products. So there's your Halloween treat. Little
Vintage.
shot of Fred and I in a different time with more hair and darker hair.
When did we decide that was circa 19?
Well, 87, 86, 87.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
Yeah.
so right back, because back then we had a lot of hair metal was big, and
Oh,
we may or may not still listen to it today.
as you should. I love it, guys.
Absolutely. So go ahead and move. There you go. Thanks, Fred. All right. So getting into a little bit about the company. Um, so Telestream, what do we do? If you're not that familiar with us, what we do is it's live or file-based content, we provide content creators and distributors tools to be able to deliver quality content in a easy amount of time, quick and easy time with automation and tools to be able to do that sort of delivery. Next slide, please. A little bit of a history of our evolution. We started in '98, and it was a small start, actually. It was a single product that allowed for content distribution and for approvals. Um, as computer technology advanced, we started to create more and more tools, but they were rather disparate and very specific. They weren't always interoperable with each other. Flip for Mac was one of those first notable products, which allowed for content to be played on different platforms, whether it was PC or Mac, which then evolved into the beginnings of our automation and orchestration platform, which is Vantage. Around the same time, we rolled out Wirecast, which was an all-in-one hardware platform, which you still see today. Fred, feel free to jump in here if I'm leaving any gaps.
Sure.
But as we continue to evolve, we added more and more tools that you can see both on the top and the bottom of this graphic. Captioning started pushing into the cloud. Both by acquisition and development, we started to see tools like test and measurement, quality control, very specific, very technical tools, but very important part of the prep and distribution process. All the way to now, currently, some of the big things that we're driving at is the push to the cloud and development of cloud native solutions and the use of AI, right? But not just for the sake of using AI, but very intelligent use. And we'll get into that a little bit more as we go.
Sure. And just to add to what Enrique said, over the last 25, going on 26 years now, a lot of it has been internal development, natural growth, but we have had a lot of acquisitions over time. And I think one of the key ones that people may not realize, or maybe they forgot because COVID happened right after, we bought Tektronix Video, and that's a large part of our offering. And it's now slowly getting merged into our other tool sets. So along the way, as we explore these products, you'll start to see some overlap and some, hey, I've seen that before on maybe it was a waveform monitor, right? So now it's a software piece that's in the tools. And what's great is we can do on-prem, we can do hybrid, and we're going to have the cloud native stuff that we'll be talking about. So very, very broad reach.
Fred, that's a good call out. I just want to point out too, I really appreciate that, when you're talking about AI, you're talking about considering the application and not just developing AI for the sake of developing AI and because you have to have it. And it looks like from our poll results that most of the folks that are joining us today are somewhat new or pretty new to Telestream. So, there's a lot of products and solutions within the catalog that all kind of serve their different purposes in space. So I'm excited to take a little bit more of a look at some of those. We probably won't get to all of them, but
and if time allows, after we're through the presentation, we'll certainly be happy to dig into more of what exactly Vantage is and does and how it works and some of that stuff.
Into the weeds, as I say.
There you go.
I love it. I love it.
Absolutely.
So these are the three pillars that Telestream really hangs its hat on, which is ingest, enhance, and deliver. And Fred, if you can move on to the next slide, please. And what does that really mean, right? Ingest is really the monitoring of the content that's coming in, making sure that what is coming into your workflow is clean and and ready to go for the next phase, which is the enhancement, which is everything from color enhancement to the process of actually prepping your content for what could be many different deliverables, right? You could be delivering to social media platforms, to streaming platforms, all of which have different requirements, different levels of compliance. All of this is done through our workflow processing, which is for the most part automated. Once you have it set up, it's a very intuitive interface and allows for, once you have it set up, it's almost hands off. And finally, delivery, right? Delivery of clean content that is going to minimize the amount of startups and restarts, so that it becomes worry free. Okay, this slide, what we're looking at, if there's a way to clear that out, this is really a look at most of the product portfolio, and it's hard to make out here, but it's, as Joe alluded to, it's pretty extensive. It's broken out here into the 3 different pillars: ingest, enhance, and deliver. We're going to dig into some of these into a little bit more detail. Perhaps we can post or provide this afterwards. So
yeah, we definitely can.
Yeah, we call this the mother of all diagrams, and it's evolved over the last couple of NABs. And really what it does is it helps you visualize. So if we say Diva or Vantage, you can kind of understand which one of those 3 pillars it falls into.
Yep. This does a good job of laying it out so you can get that visual, again, because there are just so many products in the catalog. So to really understand kind of where each of those goes. So I love to see that.
Yep. And so some of our latest innovations, really the main point of this slide is really that we're not telling you how to do your work, right? It's have it your way. Whether you want to work on-prem, you want to work in the cloud, you want to work hybrid, a little bit of both. This is really we're giving you the ability to do your work the way that you want to do it. And as I mentioned earlier, with the use of AI, some of the highlights of that coming on with the company, one of the really cool examples that I noticed was the use of AI in Vantage. There's a human text capability where if you're a new user to Vantage, you can enter human understandable text as to what you want your content to be, how you want it to be processed, and maybe you don't know how to build that workflow out. By putting that into the AI, it will actually show you and build out the workflow. And as a new user, you can see how that's built out, and makes it so much easier to learn the process, and without having to really know the more technical aspects of building that out. And some of the other things are speech to text and stanza captioning. AI is going to do a lot of the heavy lifting so that you as an individual don't have to do some of the redundant, really laborious work that goes into doing that speech to text. Those are just some of the highlights of where we're using AI in a practical manner.
I love to see that. I like when it improving efficiency on workflows and things like that, and doing the heavy lifting, like you said, is really where we see huge gains from utilizing and leveraging AI. So great consideration for the product there. I love that.
Right. And that's really what Telestream has been known for is we take all those mundane, non-productive tasks that are repetitive, and we basically put it in a box. So if there's a particular file type that you have that needs to end up in a discovery spec, let's say you're uploading content to Discovery or contributing to their programming, they have very strict guidelines how it's supposed to be. Well, instead of having somebody sit down and manually go through that hour file, the software can do that for you. So we've always had that capability in there, and that's why we're in nearly every television station and quite a large number of post-production houses in some form or fashion, because we can automate that repetitive stuff. And now that we have AI to the mix, it's going to make it even more powerful, even more flexible, for people that aren't as experienced building workflows, as Enrique mentioned, to be able to just type in something and get really close right out of the gate. And so we got an award at NAB for that earlier this year, based on Best in Show for our use of AI, not just having AI. So it's pretty cool.
It's an important distinction.
Yep. And the other product that we won an award for, Stanza, that was previously mentioned, is it's our new generation captioning tool. And so it's going to be not only English speech to text for subtitling and captions, but we'll also do language to language. So right now we can do a host of languages into English. Future releases are going to allow us to take English into other languages as well as have everything timed up. It's really cool. We don't have time for a full demo of that today, but we certainly can in the future.
Yeah, I would love to see that.
And again, just going back to have it your way messaging, right? The deployments that we can help roll out are in any form, whether it's public, private, on-prem, or a combination of any of those. Something to mention as well is that we are in the AWS marketplace. So if your dealers have customers that have marketplace credits that they need to use, we're certainly happy to help there. And hint, can't really talk about it at this point, but we're also looking at expanding that as well.
I'm a big fan of we can't talk about it right now, but I love hearing about that stuff. That we're staying tuned. I can't wait till we can talk more about it. Come back.
Absolutely. Fred, anything to add to that?
No, it's we have the big three on here now, right? As far as cloud partners, we are looking at several others, and they seem to keep growing. So a lot of folks are now making this having a reason to build their own cloud, right? And so one of the great things about Telestream traditionally is we've always played nice with everybody. And as you know, especially in the broadcast world, right, there's been a consolidation. And Ross, for example, used to do switchers. Right now they have everything. Grass Valley used to focus on one thing. Now they do everything. And in the beginning, they needed somebody to work and communicate with those other pieces in a media supply chain before one company could provide it all. And that was Telestream. And we've been able to maintain those relationships since the very beginning. So we're still a trusted partner with a lot of the other players out there in that particular space. And we have a new alliance team going out looking for new partnerships and strengthening the ones that we have. So it's a really good, really solid brand. And we almost always can work with your storage vendors, your MAM vendors, all those types of things.
Fred, you kind of are hitting on a topic I had some questions loaded up for, which is really like third-party integrations and partnerships and things like that. You say you've got a team. If we have a partner who is looking to utilize Telestream but needs it to play nice with, integrate with another solution that's out on the market that Telestream isn't already involved with, is there a formal process to engage that? Would it just be engaging the sales rep at that point, or what would we do to make that happen?
Well, it would start with your partner account manager, most likely. If you're getting feedback from your folks that this needs to happen, we'd start with Enrique, for example. He'd get with our alliance team, and we'd figure out what needs to happen next, right? So there's interoperability and there's integration, and there is a subtle difference for folks that are, it'll work together, but it's really not, maybe I have to go through a couple additional steps. If it's something that's a lot of people are asking for, we can certainly escalate that to a higher priority level. And but most days, like right now, we can interoperate with a lot of what's out there just based on watch folders. So if there's a location where you could put a file, and it doesn't matter where it lives, as long as Vantage can see it, we can initiate workflows.
Okay, good to know.
Yeah. More often than not, we're going to be able to say yes, right? Whatever it is that's coming in and wherever you need it to go, we'll most likely be able to say yes. And if not, we're open to working on it.
Awesome.
Right. Yeah. So for example, there's an Avid connector, right? So within Vantage, we've already made that link into Media Central. There's Grass Valley connectors. There's Aspera connectors. There's all types of connectors that are already built. So there's a good chance we've already been down that road and have it available in the price book and available to your customers right away.
Well, you're hitting all the major brands right there for sure. I mean, there's always some ones we've never heard of or somebody's working with that we haven't gotten to yet or something like that. But that's certainly all the major folks. And I gotta imagine covers, 90% of users right there.
Right. And with the way technology is easily accessible for a lot of folks, you see a lot of new names year to year at NAB, right? Hey, we have this new MAM tool that's going to be the best thing ever, right? And MAM tools, for example, they're very, very different, right? Everybody's definition of a MAM, we could poll everybody that's on this webinar right now, and you'd possibly get that many different answers on what they believe a MAM is, right? And so we've already done a lot of the work with the obvious ones, and there's some other ones out there. It may be a very simple thing that we can connect with.
Awesome.
So working with your team, we put together some packages that cover really the basics. Now, this doesn't mean we can't add to it. This doesn't mean we couldn't alter pieces along the way to get started, but we thought it was a very consumable package for our transcoding and our workflow package. Now, one thing that we really haven't had time to do yet is walk through folks what exactly Vantage does and how it works. But the screenshot here gives you a little bit of an idea on how you would build a workflow. We'll get into the actual options here in a second. But this receive action could be a watch folder. So it's constantly monitoring a location on your network. And when something shows up, it says, aha, we have something. So then it'll go to this next step where it'll analyze what it is. So let's say you've got a function in there. If it's high definition, we want it to take this top branch. And if it's standard definition, we want it to take this other branch, because there's going to be different actions along the way to get that content for its final delivery location. And so once it knows what it is, it'll do an example. It'll decide, okay, well, this is an SD piece of content. This is how we need to turn it, what we need to turn it into. And so, but these things can get extremely complicated, and there could be 40 or 50 steps along the way. And that's where the AI tools that we talked about really make it easy to get the framework in place to where then if I need to go in and make adjustments, I'll be able to do that. Because each one of these actions has a lot of options underneath the hood. And sometimes it takes a little bit of time to make sure you get the right ones in there. But what's also nice is each one of these actions, or most of them, are cloud enabled. So if I needed to push some of the work to the cloud, I have that ability. So, or if just the final delivery is a cloud, it can all be built in there pretty nicely. So go ahead.
So I was just gonna say, this bundle you're talking about cloud, this bundle and package that we put together includes the server, so you can run it as an on-prem solution. It includes licensing. I mean, I see a couple of the bullet points there. What underneath those things, what does that mean we're getting?
Sure. So let's start with the top item. That's the Lightspeed server. And what that is, that's a purpose-built appliance that rapidly accelerates the processing of content, leveraging GPUs and I'll call it the special sauce that makes it work 5, 7, 10 times faster in real time, depending on the codec and what your delivery.
I want that recipe.
Right. Everybody does. Everybody does. It's
right.
Not exactly KFC, but it's pretty special. So it's the G7 is we have good, better, best. G7 is our base unit. We do have other options available. So if somebody said I need more processing based on my needs, we can take out the G7, put in a different model that has dual GPUs in it. The G7 is a single GPU unit. But if you're going through a high amount of volume, or you've got some very complex processing that needs to happen in a fast time, we've got dual GPU options available. And then we have our best right now is called the G10, and it's got some updated internal components as well. But the base bundle, the G7 for a lot of applications in post or small broadcast, the G7 is more than appropriate. Vantage Transcode Pro is our first Vantage module that we include in the bundle. And what that allows for is the transcoding into really the broadcast codecs, right? So you've got MXF, OP1A, you've got the ProRes, you've got Avid DNX flavors of all kinds. We have a ridiculous amount of codec support in these, and we maintain these and we add new ones as necessary. We also have, if you're doing light transcoding for OTT and things that don't really require a proprietary spec like DNX, HD, or ProRes, we have one that'll just do generic MXFs as well. So we've got kind of the heavy and the lighter versions of Transcode and Transcode Pro that are available. We include Transcode Pro in the bundle because 95% of our customers require it. Vantage analysis, this is really where the power of Vantage overall comes into play, because it's making all the decisions, right? Do I need black detection? So black detection is a great feature for somebody that's consolidating old media and only wants to save the usable parts of the file. And so we can end up, I think we save Major League Baseball 30 or 40% of their space and their MAM because they use black detection, and they just got rid of all those frames. It also, so it can look for letterboxing, it can look for graphics. There's so many things that analysis can do. It's really a key part of those workflows. So if you start with those two, then we can add other modules along the way if necessary that give it extra functionality. A great example, we have a module called Post Producer, and I know I'm getting a little away from the bundle description, but we just to tell you a little bit more about what Vantage can do is, let's say you produce car commercials, and this guy is pretty big regional, and he delivers 30 different versions of the same car commercial out, right? And he does 4 or 5 of these a week. Well, the one that's going to Albuquerque has a different set of phone numbers and graphics on it. Dallas has a different set. And so whatever your content is, if you're making multiple copies right now, you'd have to go into Premiere, you'd have to re-edit, add the graphics, wait for it to render out, and then send it. This will take all that out of a spreadsheet, automatically do it all and deliver it for you. So you take the final version of your commercial, drop it in the watch folder, and then it will just begin doing all 30 versions of for you at the same time, or if not concurrently, it can do up to 4, usually very fast, and then it'll just do them in order as you have them in the. So there's a lot of tools that are very purpose built that you can add to a bundle down the road. For example, you don't have to buy it all today.
Well, there's many things, from the Vantage line and the product line within here that all kind of fall under that same umbrella. And I guess the reason I asked the question is specifically because it's to try to break down these things. So the look under the hood, there's support included in commissioning as well.
Yes. Yep. So silver support 8 to 8, right? That includes the warranty as well on the server. And then what we'll do is we'll take a day, we'll get everything stood up, integrated into your environment, and then walk through some training with you to get you set up on some of the workflows.
Awesome.
So that's the first one. Sorry, I kind of went down in the weeds, and I apologize for that.
That's where we're in I like it.
You like weeds? All right.
It's where we want to be a lot on the show. I think it's particularly a little difficult with a brand like you guys because there's so many things and so many solutions to uncover, so we can't get into all the weeds. But I think kind of getting the overview and then diving a little bit into a solution, and now we'll get a look at another one, I think helps set the stage for folks who aren't as familiar with Telestream, kind of, the array of options that you guys have.
Sure. So the next package that we have is the content and archive management package, which includes Diva. Now, I'm pretty sure a lot of the folks on the call here have heard of Diva. I actually worked for Front Porch well over a decade ago. And back then it was driven by an Oracle database. There was a lot of moving parts in terms of numbers of servers required to serve a large archive. And because technology has increased and things are more efficient now, you can do a lot more with less. We've also stripped out the Oracle database that took out a large piece of the cost. And now and Diva works with all the other players that you've mentioned before. Avid, and some of these other systems that are out there. And we've updated the interface so we can do we start with a half a petabyte that we can manage at any tier. So if you've got a NAS, you've got a tape library of some sort, and maybe you've got slow cloud, Glacier type cloud, we can store up to half a petabyte anywhere in there. And so what Diva was really good for and was moving files between those different tiers outside of a production asset management system or some other MAM. So it will handle all that. And it used to work in conjunction with all these other MAMs. It was driven by all those MAMs. And now Diva is more standalone. It can function within your environment with the GUI. Vantage will do a lot of the transcoding. So if you've got it stored in, let's say, JPEG 2000, but you have a working copy, you need it in ProRes, Vantage could take that, convert it, deliver it to your SAN so you can begin editing it. So this also includes the appliance, the Diva server. It includes 3 years of Silver support along with the remote commissioning and training.
Can you, I've got one or two questions piling up. We've got a couple in there. In the bundles, there's options for licensing. And I guess, in today's world, we're all pretty used to these kind of options. Annual subscriptions, monthly, perpetual, whatever the case is. There's obviously a pricing difference. Can you quickly, or maybe not so quickly, maybe it needs a little more conversation. Can you break down a little bit for me the difference, why I might want to go with a subscription model versus a perpetual license or vice versa, pros and cons to either option with the Telestream offering?
Well, obviously Adobe started this mess about 10 years ago, right? Moving everybody to subscription, right? And it's been met with, some people really like it, some people don't like it, some people want to be able to buy something and maintain it. We totally understand that. That's why we're giving folks both options, right? We are incentivizing more for the subscription rates, because if you end up doing the math, you're still coming out a little bit ahead with the subscriptions. It's a subscription. It's more competitively priced. If you space everything out on a yearly basis, that never really changes, right? Whereas support, traditionally you buy it, you pay for the first year, and then next year I'm going to have an amount, and then you got the regular increases due to inflation and those types of things. And the subscriptions are just a flatter. I know what I'm going to be paying for the next 3 years, and it's a little more efficient than buying all these things outright. We don't have a lot of time to get into the very specifics, but on the previous package, when you buy the subscription or when you go with a subscription, there's a lot more flexibility and additional options that we can offer. So there might be another module that you want to add that's very, very small incremental cost, as opposed to perpetual. Now I'm spending potentially low five figures on a new module. Whereas if I was on a subscription, I could add in, it would just be a couple $100 a month, for example. So when we have time to really break it down, you totally see the differences and why a subscription long-term is a little more beneficial, because it gives you some flexibility mid-term, where perpetual, I have to wait for my next budget cycle to be able to buy this new feature that I need.
Yeah, I think something that is, we talk about it on our end a little bit. I don't know that everybody does. The subscription-based model builds you into an OpEx budget. So now, that money comes from a different bucket, kind of like you were saying, versus a CapEx where you're going to have to go and get approval for that every time. It can be a moving target and that sort of thing. So I see the benefits there. We could do a whole episode on, those kind of models, but that's kind of neither here nor there. I do have one question that came in. I just want to pop up from our guy, Clay. Shout out Clay for joining us. And this is particular to Starin. Clay actually works on my team. This is a great question. He says, we have many partners focused on the AV and UC space, which is very true of Starin's kind of core business. As they move into content and production type systems, what would be ways to uncover or engage customers about Telestream solutions or products?
Sure. And the easiest question is, So when speaking about Vantage, the obvious question is, how much time are you spending doing your repetitive tasks today? right? A lot of folks will hire somebody full time and they will just sit there and they'll make versions and versions and versions and versions. A great example, we've got a house of worship client that they were making 15 different versions of the same editor over the same show for all the different folks. And it was a very small shop. So he was spending 2.5 days a week just making versions, right? In addition to everything else, right? So if you take the capital expense of a person doing repetitive, non-productive tasks, you could easily put an ROI together in on that. So I think, Clay, great question. That's an easy one to start with. And then you can get into, are you running into issues? So let's say you get, you're a post-production house and you're contracting a company and they shoot it in a format that you need to transcode before you edit, like most of them, right? The old joke is standards are great. That's why everybody has their own, right? Sony's got their version, Panasonic's got their version, RAW, Red, pick a camera company and it's all different, right? So what we really do is we normalize that content automatically. So you can just start to edit when it's ready, and it's ready a lot faster than saying, okay, well, here's my card. Now I have to plug it in. I have to let my machine transcode it. And some of those desktops are pretty fast, right? So you could probably get through it pretty quickly. But while that's happening, I can't edit. I can't do anything really.
Right.
So you can offload that to a Vantage system. We have a lot of tools for camera ingest. We have one where you can just take a straight file dump and push everything into Vantage and start a workflow for it. And then we also have some other tools where you could look at the camera card, see what's on it, kind of do some pre-editing and pre-judging, and well, I don't want these shots, so why am I going to run it through my transcoder if I'm never going to use it, right? And then you can also force metadata. So your media wrangler could be leading the charge on all that and importing and then adding manually certain pieces of data. So that's another great question to ask. We have a live capture system that's based on Vantage. So right now, if you're recording to a local drive and then you need to move content, what we can do, and it's in one specific format because that's all it can encode, the Vantage, we call it Lightspeed Live Capture, can take and deliver in any format you want. So if you want to bring camera feeds in, like studio cameras straight in, and you want to turn it to ProRes right away or some other format, we can do that and create a proxy at the same time. So it really just builds efficiency into your workflow, and it's very easily proved by ROI for manpower.
Super powerful and efficiency building right there. I think, we touched on this pre-call kind of in another topic, and we've got about 5 to 10 minutes left. So I want to encourage everybody, if you've got any more questions, we got a couple that came in. Thank you for those.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Q&A so we can get to those. Yeah. We were talking about this kind of pre-call, just talking, generally. And I think one area that people can certainly grab onto and look as like a segue to earn new business with their partners, and Telestream can help them with, we touched on, is like solutions for quarterly calls, right? And internal broadcasts and messaging, and to up their production value with that. I know you mentioned the Sherpa solution. Can you touch on those quickly, any of those quickly, before we wrap things up here?
Sure. So let's start with the easy one, and that's Stanza. We mentioned it earlier in the call. It's our latest generation captioning and subtitling tool. It's all browser-based. So in the past, if you wanted a captioning system from Telestream, it was Caption Maker, which was PC, and then we had Mac Caption. And so we had multiple platforms, and they were very specific to what computer you had in your shop. Now we have a Mac installer, we have a PC installer, and it runs in Chrome or whatever browser you want. Chrome or Safari are the two obvious choices there. But then you get all the same tool sets, right? So now we're able, because we're not supporting two separate platforms, we can put all of our development into one. So if anybody out there is talking to somebody and maybe they're outsourcing their captioning and it's costing a pretty penny, they can subscribe to Stanza, and we have bundle packs. They can bring that in-house, and then they're spending maybe 15 to 20 minutes reviewing what AI did as opposed to having to sit there and transcribe all this stuff all themselves. I mentioned light capture. It's an appliance that brings in live feeds. It can also bring in SRT feeds. It can do NDI. It can do 2110. So we have flexible deployment options. If you're doing streaming only, if you're bringing in NDI or SRT, you could put it on a VM, right? So a lot of folks are already leveraging VM technology. So all of our stuff plays on that as well. So a lot of flexibility into that. We talked about content management somewhat. Enrique, help me out. What else are we?
Glim.
Yep. So like Stanza, Glim is our web or our browser-based review and approval tool. So I mentioned earlier that some of the tools are starting to come together out of different traditional locations. So in Glim, you could pull up a Prism scope and look at your video that way. You can add notes. You can make rough cuts, send those jobs to Vantage. So if your client's in LA and you're in New York, you could send them the video and they can make notes and say, this is what I'd like to do as a rough cut, put ins and outs, fire that to a Vantage workflow. And all of a sudden you've got a rough edit of something that the customer has already approved. So a lot of cool things in there like that. Everything's playing nicely together. Obviously, cloud, not just for transcoding, but we have cloud capture. So a lot of places that are doing most of their work in the cloud, now we have tools where you just keep it there, do everything that you want in the cloud because you're probably delivering it to a cloud location. So just so much going on. I want to save time for some more questions, but we touch. So if you think of the media supply chain, we don't do storage, we don't do graphics, but we do all the boring stuff that has to happen for your content to pass muster, right? We do calm compliance for broadcast. That's part of the analysis package. We make sure your colors are clean. We have an amazing number of file-based quality control tools, and we're rolling out a new one. So you can say, hey, I want Qualify. Well, do you want it in the cloud? Do you want it on-prem on a server, right? So just a lot happening and too much time in the next minute and a half to cover them all. So I hope I got it.
That's great. I appreciate it. I am one of those you're just talking about. It's like I'm one of those people who kind of fought the adoption of cloud solutions a little bit. It just seemed initially I fought it because it seemed like these are such powerful solutions that can do so many things, and boxing them into a web browser really made me feel like now I'm not dealing with a serious solution. I'm dealing with like a toy, a little more, for lack of a better way to say it. And I've certainly changed my tune over the years, and I've seen from you guys how powerful these solutions really can be in any of these applications, right? Cloud, prem, on-prem, or a hybrid solution. So before we got a gift card giveaway we want to hit right before we go here, but I want to give each you guys just an opportunity. I appreciate you having you here, giving us your time and a wealth of knowledge. I know we're just scratching the surface. For sure, we'll bring you guys back in the future. But on LinkedIn, where can the people find you if they want to learn more? Obviously, you're Starin sales rep, but where can we find you guys out there?
Sure. So telestream.net is our website. Pretty simple. We do have a LinkedIn page. It's just Telestream proper. Feel free to reach out to any of us at Telestream on LinkedIn. Fred Vint, same picture, not the hair, but the bald picture of me. So I should be easy identified. And we're happy to connect. We have a ton of resources. I've been at a lot of places over the last 30 years. Hands down, we have the best sales engineering group around. And that's saying a lot. I've been at some really good places. And we have resources. We have demo gear. We can set up online demos with about 3 days notice. So if you have a customer, call your Starin rep, and all of us will get together on the phone and walk through a particular demo on a product set. So we're happy to help. We're here for you all. And we're certainly looking forward to not only building our relationship with Starin, but getting to know some folks out there that we traditionally have just not had a lot of contact with. And we really look forward to that.
Yeah, I appreciate it, guys. Thank you so much for the time. Enrique, Fred from Telestream. For all the folks out there, if you want to get in touch with them, there's the places to find them, and certainly through your Starin rep if you've got opportunities you want to talk about. Before we boogie out, Without any further ado, we do the giveaway. We appreciate you guys giving us our time. So shout out to Telestream for providing this giveaway for us, and Tim Duncan for winning. Tim will get in touch with you afterwards so we can get that delivered to you. Congratulations, and thanks for joining us. And I just want to wish everybody a safe and happy Halloween, and we'll see you next time.